Hey loves, this is Bottoms Up, Life Unfiltered, and I'm your host, Carrie Hamilton. This is a space for the stories that broke us, the moments that brought us to our knees, and the strength we didn't know we had to stand back up. We are not broken, we are breaking through, and with faith I pray that the messages shared resonate with those who need to know that they will too. Hey loves, I am your host, Carrie Hamilton, and today I wanted to talk to you about love. But love that is based on conditions. And these conditions, are they normal or may they be considered as abuse? Abuse is not just physical. It's not always loud, and it's not always intentional. Abuse is any pattern that causes harm, fear, control, or diminishment, whether emotional, verbal, psychological, financial, or subtle enough to hide in plain sight. Sometimes it looks like manipulation, sometimes even silence, and sometimes it's things that we call love that come with conditions. And here's the uncomfortable part. Abuse isn't only something that we experience from others, it can also live in the patterns that we carry. We often look for abuse out there, on the external world that we live in, like in relationships, families, workplaces, but we really need to ask ourselves about our own behaviors that may land on someone else. The truth is, practices we learned for survival can be experienced as harm to others, even when we don't even mean them in that way. Control disguised as care and withdrawal disguised as peace. Honestly, we have to make sure that we don't deliver all of those things without compassion. So how do you look for abuse? You watch patterns, not moments. You listen to impact, not intent. You notice where fear replaces safety, where power replaces partnership, and where some people feel smaller instead of seen. And you turn the lens inward, not to shame yourself, but to grow. Because awareness isn't about blame, it's about responsibility. And healing begins the moment we're willing to see clearly. We also need to make sure that we aren't putting up with the abuse from others because it's just our normal day-to-day practice or the comfort that we live in. If any of these apply to you after we review them all, please, I ask of you to reevaluate and make changes so that you could get the unconditional love that you deserve. So what is abuse? What are the types of abuse? How can we detect them? Abuse is not just physical. A lot of individuals think that if they can't see it and it's out of sight, then it's out of mind. And that's not the case. Physical abuse is the use of physical force that causes injury, pain, or fear of harm. Examples are like hitting, slapping, punching, kicking, choking, or restraining. When you block the exits or trapping someone. When you deny medical care for individuals. Even threats of physical harm do count as physical abuse. Emotional or psychological abuse. These are behaviors that damage a person's sense of self, emotional well-being, or mental health. Examples are constant criticism, insults, name-calling, gaslighting, blame-shifting, silent treatment, or emotional withdrawal as punishment. Intimidation, threats, or humiliation, and believe it or not, this is the most common form of abuse, but it is the hardest to recognize because we are creatures of habit and everything we do day to day becomes habitual and we accept it. Not only that, but we live in a world where abuse is actually common practice in individuals, and sometimes we bypass these things because we just think it's normal practice and procedure for people day to day. Next is verbal abuse. That's any use of language to dominate, demean, or control. Examples are yelling, screaming, mocking, sarcasm that's meant to hurt, threats or ultimatums, degrading jokes, constant interruption, or talking over someone, and this often overlaps with emotional abuse. Usually these are done hand in hand, so usually when you have one, you have the other. Number 4 is sexual abuse. Any sexual activity without clear, enthusiastic consent. The examples of this are, I'm going to spell this R-A-P-E because a lot of places they block certain words, so I'm just going to spell that, and then I'm going to say S-A for the next word. This is basically pressurizing or Coercing sex. Sexual activities is when someone is intoxicated, asleep, or afraid. Withholding affection unless sex is provided. Non-consensual touching or sexual comments is considered sexual abuse. Consent must be freely given, informed, reversible, and sober. So I want to make that clear because a lot of individuals think that when someone's under the influence and they are with them sexually, that actually can be considered as sexual abuse, as SA. So make sure that when you go into that type of situation with an individual, that those words are spoken upon before any type of alteration to the mind is done. Number 5, financial and economic abuse. This is when someone is controlling access to money or resources to maintain power. For example, taking or controlling earnings, preventing someone from working, giving an allowance, hiding financial information, forcing debt in someone else's name. All of these have to be intent to keep one trapped in abusive relationships. So like if you're married and you're like, oh honey, I need a new car, and you have better credit or whatever, and it's a joint discussion, and it goes in the wife's name or the husband's name, whatever, clearly that's not financial abuse. It's when you're basically taking on these debt situations and someone is using those as ways to keep you trapped with them. Coercive control. This is a pattern of behaviors designed to dominate a person's life in autonomy. Thank you. Sorry. Examples are monitoring phone messages or location, isolating from friends and family, setting strict rules or routines, pushing independence, or creating fear without physical violence. So a lot of individuals that are in abusive situations, narcissistic relationships, marriages, and so forth, they will have individuals, which I see this a lot with men to women versus women to men versus men to women. Men tend to actually go straight to physical abuse because they know they're stronger than the women and so forth. Coercive control is used a lot with women onto men. So basically they will monitor their phones, their messages, their locations, and they'll actually create fear without the physical abuse part of it because clearly they are not as strong as men are. So these type of behaviors are done a lot with women narcissistic individuals. However, men do too, but I'm just saying most of the men, if they resort to this, they're also doing physical abuse too. Number 7, social abuse. This is when you're damaging or controlling someone's relationships and social standing. Examples are like spreading rumors, public humiliation, sabotaging their friendships, turning others against that person, or controlling who they can see or who they can talk to. Number 8 is spiritual or religious abuse. This is when someone uses the beliefs or authority to control, shame, or manipulate an individual. These are like examples of claiming abuse that, oh, it's God's will that you must do whatever it is that they're trying to have you do, which is abusive. When they use scripture to justify harm, when they're threatening spiritual punishment, or when they're forcing beliefs or religious practices. Number 9, digital technology abuse. This is when someone uses technology to harass, monitor, or control someone. Examples are like excessive texting or calling, following up on individuals, demanding passwords or camera access for like places that they don't live. Like say a girlfriend wants your camera access to watch you and when you get home and stuff like that, or vice versa, a boyfriend. Or even it could be a spouse, spying on you with the camera to use it in a force where they're harassing or monitoring you. When tracking devices or spyware is used, I had this done to me. My ex-abuser had used tracking devices for 8 months to follow me, stalk me. Posting private images or messages, and then online harassment or impersonation. Number 10, neglect, failing to meet basic physical or emotional needs. These examples are like withholding food, care, or affection, ignoring medical needs, or just being emotionally unavailable, especially towards children or dependents. What is not abuse? So here I went over all these things that are abusive, but what can't we do? Because I know a lot of times people even might be sitting here saying, well, geez, I feel like everybody's abusive and everything can be, taken as abuse, which is true. But the key word is patterns and also with intent of harm. So what is not abuse? Occasional conflict. Clearly, when you're in a marriage, a long-term relationship, you're going to have conflict where you don't see eye to eye and you have to work things out. That is not abuse. Or if you have like a mutual disagreement, again, you're not seeing eye to eye, you mutually disagree with something, you're not abusing one another. You have to talk things out. Communication is key. When you have anger, but without intimidation or fear to control or to intimidate someone. So if you're just angry because of something that happened, say at work or whatever, and you're, discussing it with your significant other or your children or whatever, and you're just maybe going off the deep end, maybe saying a couple cuss words or something like that, but you're not using it to intimidate them or have fear or control them. You're just telling about a situation that made you really upset. That's not abuse. Or a single mistake followed by accountability and change. That is the key word. We are all human. We all make mistakes. But if we are not willing to be accountable for our actions and change the actions, we can't just keep doing the same repetitive mistake, because that's not a mistake anymore. That's a habit, and that is something that they're doing intentional. And that then becomes a pattern, which patterns are when it becomes abuse. Patterns, power, and control. Those are all ways and are deemed abuse. If you feel that you are in deep danger or you need help or any of those situations, I have input the hotlines to call. Please, if you're in a domestic violence situation, please call the hotline at 800-799-7233. If you are in a suicide or crisis situation, the hotline number there is 988. If you're in the veterans crisis, that's 988+1. If you are someone of child abuse or child help, or you are in fear of your parents and you are listening to this, please 800-422-4453. And then the National Sex Assault Hotline is 800-656-4673. I truly, truly hope and pray that each and every one of you know how amazing you are, how loved you are, and see it for yourself. I know we tend to look external and get lost in wanting to help and save and love individuals that need it more than us, or we feel need it more than us. But the truth is, if your cup is empty because you've been pouring it out over and over and over again, you are the one that needs the love, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. And it's time that you love yourself more, especially if it's getting to these situations that are very unhealthy. A lot of times individuals say, well, I'll stay for the children. Please, if this is you, do not stay for your children, because all you are doing is, number one, using that as an excuse to stay longer, but also number two, you are teaching your children what love is not. And your children are going to grow up and entertain the same type of relationships and the same type of people, because they are going to think that love is confrontation, love is toxic, love is commotion, love is abuse. They are going to think that because that is how they saw mom and dad, quote unquote, love one another. So please, please, please do what is needed. And remember, God is with you every single day, and He is who made the masterpiece that you are, and you truly are a piece of the master. You have to see that for yourself. And so it's time that you love yourself more and get the help that's needed. And anything that you lose, God always replaces tenfold, but He can't replace it to someone that is letting things go and is an empty cup. You have to fill yourself so that you can become abundant again and receive the blessings that await you. Sometimes we stand in the way of karma for someone else and we take the hits. So sometimes maybe it's just the fact that you have to remove yourself from the situation you're in so that you can obtain the blessings that await you, because the other person would drain them from you. So much love, and thank you for visiting today. I hope these helped you, and blessings to all. As we close, remember this: awareness is not accusation, it's an invitation. An invitation to notice the patterns we've inherited and the behaviors that we've normalized as moments that we had to protect ourselves, and that protection had turned into control, not only toward ourselves, but towards others. Healing doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for honesty. It asks us to pause and to listen and to choose differently because we do know better. As you move forward, stay curious. Notice where you feel safe and where you don't. Notice where your words create space and where they close it. Because real change doesn't come from pointing fingers. It comes from taking responsibility with compassion. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being willing to look into yourself. And until next time, stay aware, stay human, and stay open. Love you all.